Hello, fellow Mythrunians. Welcome to another weekly live stream. Today we'll be essentially continuing where we left off last time. I did fix some bugs, but we'll be dealing with the ramps and stuff for the physics controls. Let's go ahead and flip over to the main scene, and you can see me and all of the very cool of the coolest people who are my patrons. And helping me keep the lights on, and so hey, okay, nice. That's good. You'll get to be here while I show off some of the rebranding and stuff I'm talking about. So we've been calling this the Mythruna 2 test engine build forever. And long ago, so that's what I've, V2 engine test, right? So this is the new screen that I'm working on, because I wanted to have the social, when I do the public release at the end of the month, I wanted to have the social media links really prominent. So, we've got Discord and YouTube and Blue Sky and Facebook, and I may change the order of those. Notice I've left Twitter off for the moment. I'm still on the fence about whether to include it. It's just the logo. It's like I have to use the bird, in which it's clear, or I have to use the X, which makes it look like a button to close the window, and maybe it's time to let that go. I don't know. So the idea here being you could quickly set, whether you want full screen in your resolution, or you could go into the more detailed settings where you could turn on and off joysticks and sound and some minimal settings like that, or potentially tweak the screen resolution a little bit more. But if you remember, this is what the current settings looks like, and it provides a bunch of options I don't really want to give the player, like gamma correction, and things like anti-aliasing I do, but they're more kind of advanced. I don't want to overwhelm the initial player with that. But by default, this will pick up your current. I think by default I'm going to have it set to full screen. I'm going to have it pick whatever your current screen resolution is, and then you could always turn off full screen and select something else, and then click play, and it would go through the regular thing. But that's not hooked up yet. But the rebranding I'm talking about doing is I feel weird calling it V2 when we never finished V1, and so I had this idea of rebranding it and giving it an identity that sort of said what's the major difference between this and both its old version and other games. And so I had this idea of Mythruna Far Horizons, which is sort of I was playing around with a title there, but just to give it like a tagline to kind of distinguish it from the old version, because I think that's the one distinguishing factor I have at this point, is that you can see really far and that the world just keeps generating on and on and on over the horizon. I'm still, I thought that actually, but other games have included the word horizon in their tagline since I originally thought of this years ago, and so I've been on the fence about doing it. So it'd be interesting to hear what you guys think. You can leave a YouTube comment or whatever about whether that kind of, the game will still be called Mythruna, but when we talk about it, we can call it, instead of calling it Mythruna V2 or whatever, we can call it Far Horizons. It's just an idea. But this is where I generated the splash screen, and I can make new ones as I want, because I've got the template set up if I find a better screenshot. And eventually, maybe I'll actually hire a designer to design one that's not just thrown together by me. But that's what I've been working on last few days, is just trying to get this sorted out. The other thing that was wrong with the JMonkey engine settings dialog is it would present you options that you wouldn't actually work. Like you could pick screen resolutions from here that wouldn't actually work. The game would crash if you tried to set them. And so hopefully this new one I can filter those out, because I'm getting the available settings in a different way. I'm actually asking the graphics library for them instead of asking Java, and so that when there's incompatibilities, at least this will be correct. Hopefully it's better. Anyway, that's what that was, and I honestly thought about just continuing this on the stream today, but it's very swing code is even more tedious than the normal coding we do, so I thought against it. It's bringing back both memories and PTSD to have me work on it at all. So we'll continue where we left off before, and essentially I ported the stuff over to the I ported the controller stuff that we worked on over to the Mythruna based version, so it has all of our characters and things, because I want to start playing with the flight modes and things as well. But if we start the simulation, so we'll have our stone and stuff that we're expecting, and that means I can use my classic Mythruna girl and my classic fade instead of a little too tall Mythruna girl. Okay, so where we left off last time was I had the ability to hit control, and then we can run around with her. And now I've tweaked both the running and the so now she can run. These are actual Mythruna speeds that we're using now, more or less. And see, she does a little. If you run right at this, she gets a little jump involved because she's running super fast. And so some of that will tone down a little bit. But it also means now the forces are set up right that she can actually run up this. It's not pleasant. And I actually think that she can't run up this side. Let me see. Let's see. Oh yeah, she can. So once I fixed some of the bugs in the forces, which were like just stupid bugs. Essentially, I was cutting and pasting the physics code from the prototypes that we had been working on, and I went back and I re-looked at how Mythruna did it for both the mobs and the player, and I sort of emulated that. But I'm trying to decide. First of all, I think one of the first things we'll do is I do want to have the controller have an awareness that it's going up a ramp. So we'll work on the collisions for that, so it knows. It's pretty good, and I've set it up so that it mostly stays. But this would be so much better if it knew it was on a ramp, because what happens is when you're standing here. So the other thing we want to, I'll talk about this too. The other thing I want to do is I want to add a little hit button, which would have we'll throw a physics ball at her so we can see how she reacts to being slammed into by a physics object, because she should stagger a little bit, but not go sliding off like she's on ice. We want to make sure to maintain that behavior. So there's some amount of what you call it station keeping within the physics controller. If it senses that she's moving, it tries to resist that. And so when she's on here, it's trying to resist her falling down the ramp, right? That same thing that's keeping her in place is trying to resist her falling down the ramp. The problem is, because it's doing that in the 2D plane, it loses some of the force. Let me show you what I mean. If we go over to my good old trusty whiteboard. So if you think of a ramp, it always unselects the... So if you think of a ramp like this, and she's standing on the ramp. Boy, that's a really bad stick figure today. So if she's standing on the ramp, gravity is pulling her down this way. I don't know if any of you ever took physics, but gravity is pulling her down this way. My Pepsi's coming back up the straw again. The surface is pushing her up this way, right? And if you added those two together, what you get is a small force in this direction, right? That's the combination of the downward force and the sort of normal resistance force of being on the platform. So you add those two vectors together, you get a slight down vector. And so the physics controller detects that I'm moving down like this, but the way the forces are set up, it will only let me adjust forces in either this direction or this direction, right? And so we do detect that we're moving down, and we give a sort of positive station keeping force in this direction, but the magnitude of it has been reduced because we've cut out, we're not taking into account the length of this vector, down here. So we're giving it slightly too little force. What we really need to do is know that she's standing on a slope and no longer restrict this to directly side to side, but let it go ahead and restrict to the slope surface so that she'll station keep better on the slope. And the interesting thing about that is whatever math we use to figure this out, we can tweak it so that for certain surfaces she has less station keeping. Like, we rotate, in a sense, right? We rotate or scale this vector so that it, is rotated from that one, and we can always limit the amount that we do that, so that if she was on a really steep slope, it doesn't matter, we're only going to station keep a maximum of that, which means she would still slide down that slope even if she's not moving, because she can't actually station keep on that slope. She has to be actively climbing, that kind of thing. Hey Lando, how's it going? So this is something we'll maybe play with today, although it is potentially super tedious. At least I can do it in the engine. Yeah, so I need my little warp button back. That's okay. Woo, we centered the camera right out. Okay, I need to just maintain a closer view. All right, so when she is standing over here, right, we need to sort of keep track of her basis. I'm using the word basis as a shorthand for a frame of reference. If you think about in 3D space, you've got your x-axis, your y-axis, and your z-axis. I'm going to try to draw this in 3D, right? You can call this a basis. That particular rotation is a basis, because you might have some other axis that's pointing in, completely different directions. And that would be a different basis, assuming that these are all still right triangles, or right angles in their own plane. So what we want to do is, like, the standard world basis is x is x, y is y, and z is z. But when we're on a slope, I'm turning my head, like you guys can see me turn my head, but on a slope the basis would be tilted. We'd still have this, and then whatever the other direction goes off. And so we just need to calculate whatever the controller's current basis is, and use that as far as our flat, which will maybe, which are cool. It'll be cool because we get to go into some vector math, and I will probably go back and optimize it later. We're going to do it sort of the dumb way, or the straightforward way. But you find that sometimes you can make assumptions to do things in fewer steps. Where is the setup controller? Okay, this is where we are. I want to confirm what I just said before we get too far. So yeah, so here we take our actual velocity, we flatten it, and we base our actual speed on the 2D velocity, which isn't really accurate. It could be that I'm wrong about using that to... So here's where we generate our negative force to station keep. And yeah, I do. If we're not moving up or down, then I slam the verticality of the force to 0. Because otherwise what happens is you fly. Like when I'm moving up, I'm essentially applying an up... Oh, that's funny that that still works. Oh, I'm not in control mode anymore. Ah, okay. Yeah, so like if I hit the up, you know, that's the same thing that's happening. Well, that's the same thing that would happen if we do this, just in a slider way, right? I'm hitting the Q key to fly. It's applying an acceleration in the vertical direction, but okay. Um, so that's basically that's why. If we didn't do this, I think that it would that she would station keep on the ramp. That's my theory anyway. Other problems would happen, but nope. That's interesting. So she doesn't even have. So the reason we do that anyway is because if she was floating, you know, we want her to be able to fall. But apparently there's enough slop in the system that it won't fully counteract gravity. That's what we want to be able to do essentially, is selectively counteract gravity based on what she's standing on. So yeah, so I mean I basically have to confirm my hypothesis first. If we can't get that to work, then nothing we do here is going to matter. Let me make sure it's not a force too small issue. So let's see if we control her and then move up and she still falls. So it means our forces are not strong enough to counteract. Okay, so this is something we can tease out, because what we just did didn't change anything. Which is good, because that's the sort of clamp it to make sure that super small forces don't just create jitter. It could have to do with the fact that I did change the air impulse versus the ground impulse. The idea being that when she's on the ground, so using forces to control a character like this is like putting a jetpack on their back, right? And that's why, you know, when you play Mario Brothers or you know, Smash Bros and stuff, and you're flying through the air, you can still use your controller to move around because you've essentially got a jetpack on and it's applying forces. And what I wanted to do was have the forces be different when she's standing on the ground versus when she's in the air. And so I lowered sort of the acceleration force that gets applied when she's in the air. That could have been why we fall. Nope. I don't think we're falling any slower than we were before. So that's not it either. But it was a candidate, a potential candidate. So that means we can put this back. And let's log the force. Else print force. Just wondering what we never take mass into consideration, which could be an issue as well. Because force is mass times acceleration, and so the force of gravity is going to be, I have gravity set to 20, I think. So it should be 20 times the mass of the character, and if we're not at least exceeding that, that is probably an issue. What do I set her mass to, though? I agree, calling it number 2 doesn't seem quite right, and like the concept, I'd say Horizon is a bit overused, but it does focus on the most notable difference between the two versions. Yeah. I feel like I have the, and I don't want to say right, but, like, I'm the least disingenuous when I call mine fire, have word Horizon in the title versus some other games. Yeah, put it that way. Because it actually means something like real, tangible. So let me think. I think it's body mass. It'll tell me. Expanse, yeah. There's a sci-fi show called The Expanse. But yeah. I just like the reason I think of Horizon is because one of my fundamental concepts is that you can see cool things on the horizon and you'll be tempted to go there. It's one of the more modern game design tropes. Like the guy who did the latest Legend of Zelda games, one of the game designers there talked about that. He wanted to always have like something cool in the background that you would want to go check it out, like a tower or something. And that's a design philosophy. What was I doing? Oh yes, I was going to control her again and then go boink. Oop, nope. I screwed something up. No such property mass. It's probably inverse mass, isn't it? All right, let's look at vantage. So the force she's giving is only slightly up. Now our inverse mass, so let's make that back to regular mass so I can see what it is. All right, so control, okay. Yeah, so she's 50 units. They don't mean anything in the physics system, like not tangible. She's 50 units, which means her force is going to be 50 times 20, I think, which is probably where I get the this 2000 number. Like trying to be more than that. But let me just make sure there's not something else weird going on. I won't spend more than another 10 minutes or so on this. If you guys can, like back to the Horizon example, if you guys can find other games that use something like Far Horizon in their title, because I remember looking and I found something before and I can't find them now. But again, I don't want to use the tagline if it's going to be overly common. So I feel like I have a better claim to it. Pokemon, yeah, that's true. There was something like that about Pokemon. I mean, for now, I've just continued to call it Mythruna Test Engine 2, but at some point, and I thought it would be neat to coincide with the public release to rebrand. Actual velocity is the body position minus the previous velocity, and then we divide by the step to get actual velocity. And then where did we get our force from? The force comes from the target velocity minus the actual velocity. So let's look at that, because the actual velocity No, I don't zero it out. So actual velocity is good. But what if we set force dot y? I just want to see what would happen if we do this. Give the force a little bit of extra oomph in the up. Because that's all we're off really, it's just a little. Yeah, see, that's not doing anything. I'd expect it to change something. So something in here I'm not seeing. Let's make sure we're not doing any of the falling difference stuff. I'm going to move this down. Just in case some other weird thing. So if force dot length squared is greater than 0.1. Okay, what's going on here? Control. Okay, so we've already talked about how. So she's got an upward force of 500, but we already know her downward force is going to be about 1,000. So what if I yeah, it's unfortunate. Mythruna is such a unique name. You know, it would be a shame to tack on something. Could just be I just continue to call it Mythruna, and as it advances, like, people forget the old version. It's not like they can play it on a server, not on my server anymore, anyway. Okay, let's try it again. Control, what was I doing? Okay, so we do fall a lot slower with that 1.1 thing. Okay, so oh, and I multiplied by 2. Huh. Yeah. But that didn't actually change this much. I think it's because it's self-leveling. Like, I think if I change this to 5, it's not even gonna... Because the force is based on our... When we're not moving, the force is based on the velocity. Let's see what happens. At some point, I'll hit some point where she just flies up in the air. Yeah, okay. Yikes. Delete her. Delete. There we go. Oh, boy. Alright. Oh, poor Mythruna girl. Okay, so 2 was closer to correct. Yep. Okay, let's try again. Control, brink. Yes, so brink. She falls very slowly. Very, very slowly. Would 2.5 be too much? Sometimes when you can find what the value is, it'll be clear where it comes from. Okay, so she's still falling. We're definitely getting a higher force, I think. Yeah, it looks like 1,000. So that's almost, that should have been. Okay, so what if I did 3? Oops, I've got... okay, so there we go. We found the... Oh no. So that creates a bunch of jitter. Neat. Let's try 2.75. Okay, so she did eventually settle back down. Yeah, there's a bunch of jitter now, so it's really close to being right on the threshold. So I was right about it being about 1,000. And it must just be the standard linear damping that's allowing some of the force to leak through. But because she's falling a lot slower in this case, she should walk up the slope and hold position better. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah, so she'll... oh yeah, because we're not falling as fast anymore. Alright, so let's get out of the control mode and turn back on this. Actually, some of it's because she stays animated. Yeah, so she falls back slowly. Eventually I have to fix this formula because it doesn't take mass into consideration, and so this only really works for the player. We've used some magic values that work for the particular model we're using. So anyway, if we turn this back to 0, she'll fall back down quickly. Like this is now. Boink. Right, because everything should be back to normal. And so if we control her, go up here, she should fall back down quicker. It's about the same. So maybe none of that matters. And it could just be when she's on a slope, we need to constantly apply a little bit of up force to make sure she's not sliding back down. Alright. I said I wasn't going to spend more than 10 minutes on this without that particular thing. So there's another issue to work out. It turns out that there's a weird quirk. I haven't done anything special, but she will kind of walk up the stairs sometimes. Maybe not now, but there was a point where like she was animating and she would find her way up the stairs if I just forced the issue, but she's not anymore. And the way I want to build stair climbing into the controller itself sort of breaks my idea about using, you know, that animated action swap out thing. So I have to rethink that a little bit. Man, I really want this hill thing to work because like I could ignore stairs for a while by putting ramps in the towns and stuff, you know. So let's play with that. For one thing, we're not properly calculating the ground contacts at all. We don't know what her ground. So that's the other thing is I want to. Eventually, the idea was to have moving platforms here, so there'd be like a platform here that would move across and back, so that she could go stand on the platform, and we could make sure that, like if she was standing on a moving object, that she would move with it, and still be able to walk around and so on. So that's at some point we're gonna have to add that too, but I definitely don't need that for this iteration. Okay, so new body contact. Context, we want to have, or maybe I do calculate ground contacts. Contacts each, upness. No, I calculate that she's on the ground. So let's vec3d ground velocity. I don't think I have one of these yet. Nope. Okay. So basically, what's she standing on? What's its velocity? Ground count equals 0. And so for everything that we're standing on, we will see if that contact has a body. Vec3d v equals get velocity. Does contact have a other? It might. So contact has potentially two bodies on it, and because one body hits another, right? But it's not clear which one is the player and which one is the other body, because it could be in any order, right? There's two bodies usually involved in a collision, unless it's a static part of the world. Then there is no body 2. That's why it's not a rigid body, it's an abstract body, because it could be a static object, it could be an actual other moving object, another player, a airship or whatever, in which case, depending on their size and different priorities, they might be swapped, and the player might be, or the character might be body 2, and the thing they're standing on might be body 1. And so I'm wondering if there's already a method to say, I am this body, give me the other body, which would have been a useful method to have. Apparently not. There's more magic in this class. I cut and pasted a lot of this from a book, so I don't understand all of it. I've tried to pick it apart. I've had to debug it, of course, and so it's been an interesting kind of debugging a black box you don't understand sort of situation. All right, so if contact body 1 equals rigid, wait, do we call it rigid body or just body? We call it body. Gosh, there's like a whole little bit of logic here. So equals null if let's just here, I got it. Other body equals contact body 1 equals us, then the other body is contact body 2, or it's contact body 1. Body 1. And so then if we have other body, and it's an instance of rigid body, which means it'll have a velocity, then we can say ground velocity add local other body dot what is the get linear velocity? Get linear velocity. Yeah, and then ground count plus plus, and then at the end of this loop. So I actually didn't need to do this, but I'm trying to establish. I think divide local is what I want. Ground count. If ground count is greater than 0, don't want to divide by 0. Bad things happen. I need to establish what where I'm processing the up contacts, and so I was like, well, I'm here, but we also want to keep an sort of an average normal vector. Ground normal equals new vec3d. Yeah, we'll do separate so I don't confuse myself. One will be a subset of the other, because all of these should have normals, but only some of them will have whatchamacallits. Okay, so then we want to change this. Okay. And then for this, we will say ground normal, add local cn, and ground normal count plus plus. So then we will do similar here. Ground normal, if ground normal count is greater than 0, ground normal divide local ground normal count. And then we will visualize it. We have def ground normal entity null. Alright, so if grounds blah 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 blah, if context.ground normal entity, delete it, ed remove entity, and then if here we will create one. Oh, 2 equals, that doesn't work. Okay, we will add it to both of these. And then we will set an arrow on it. Come on. Okay, so this one will be, we'll let it be the full height. In fact, maybe we'll set it to 2, so super tall. And color GBA green. See if that works. Nope. This property CN. Alright. Since the other thing is ground normal dot normalize local, instead of CN, we want it to be that. And oh, that's a good point. Alright, we will use the rigid body position. Nope. Contact entity. Oh, right. Needs to be this. Alright. So now we should have big giant green. Yeah, okay. So now as we control her, that arrow should point in different directions based on her current ground. Yes, let's see. Yes. Yas, queen. So we should be able to uncontrol her and watch her go down. So that's the normal, her falling down the... But look, we've got a big old contact normal. And so now we can calculate her angular basis. Yeah, okay, cool. So we will do that as well. So let's do a vec3d ground dir and vec3d ground left. Yes. Yes. So we already have an up. Now we want a vector that points left and a vector that points in the direction we're moving. So what we will do is we will take, I think we've already calculated our direction. We did, but we didn't keep it out. So let's just do this. So we have a dir. And so there's this cool thing. If you take a, we're talking about constructing these. If you take a vector in some random direction, like just say this is the direction, well, let's do the, let's move down a little bit. So let's say you have a direction that's the normal of that ramp, right? And you know the player is facing in this direction. You can do a cross product of those, which will give you a vector that's like pointing out of or into the screen that's 90 degrees from both of those. And so then if you take this vector that's pointing into the screen and do another cross product, you get this one that goes in this direction. And that is your little, that's your basis. So cross products are pretty magic. Not as magic as a dot product, but super useful for creating a basis from a direction and some vague values. So in here, we want to take, we want to say ground left equals, I can never remember whether it's left cross right is my head or right cross left, so I'm probably going to get this backwards the first time because whatever I pick, I'm always backwards. So let's do dir cross ground normal, and then normalize local. Okay, so now we should have a ground left, and we should be able to, you know what, this will be a lot easier if I def entity equals entity. I'll be able to cut and paste a lot more code if I do it this way. And actually, so let's change this to basis entities equals, there we go. And then in here, if there were basis entities, then okay, so we'll remove them. And then in here, let's just go ahead and make some vectors so that we can just iterate over them. Def bases, basis vectors equals blah blah blah, and then we will say, first of all, we will add this one. I'm gonna multiply it in here so that I could potentially have different basis vectors dot add ground left mult2. All right. So then for our basis vectors, no, I want to do for int I equals 0, I is less than basis vectors size I plus plus. I think I can make better basis vector entities, basis entities. Add entity. I think it'll be easier to pick colors for them if I want to use different colors for the axes. Okay, so we got all this stuff. Blank, 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 blank. And instead of f basis equals basis vectors sub I. And so then everywhere we did oh, there. It's not everywhere, it's just one place. Okay, so let's see what I blew up. Ground normal entity. Ah, yes. Ah, yes, the how you say show. Okay, so now we should have, we have a, it isn't left though, so I did get it backwards. And let's make that red. Oops. Oh, so we want color here, and def color equals color, say switch I case 0 color equals color RGBA dot green. Case 1 color equals color RGBA dot red. I think that's what Blender would do, right? Default. We want to make it something really obvious. Okay, so that should give us different colors for the, yeah. So let me move her forward so you see what I'm talking about. Right, she's got a left vector, right vector. It's funny how it seems to jitter a bit. Like it moves when we stop. It lags. Oh, sure, because we're doing this before we move. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, so see, it's showing me whatever her current. Of course, it's backwards. So let's, since it's not a left vector, it's a right vector. So if you switch the way your cross product goes, and that should flip it around. Let's just verify. Yep, so now it really is a left vector. And so that means ground normal cross dir. So if the ground normal would be my right hand and the dir is my left hand, right, then my head is the direction. I don't know. I never keep it straight. But excuse me, ground dir then will equal. Okay, so if we've established that, right, ground normal times dir is my head, then ground left times ground normal will be my new dir. Ground left cross ground normal, normalize local blah, 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 blah. And then we want to add, I'm going to stop multiplying this by 2, and so we'll do ground vector. And we'll make that one blue. Whoops. Oh yeah, I have case 2. But that's why we put the default in to catch us. Okay, so now I've got this. I think it's Blender's red, green, blue. It might have the blue and the green mixed up, but that's fine. So we control it again, and we walk up this thing. We should see that the blue arrow should point up the slope. And if I undo this, so we can see, yep, blue arrow points up the slope. And the cool part about that is that it will point up the slope, even like if I'm at an angle, it will point at a slightly different, right? It's now graduated. So as I push my force there, I'm not, putting too much up the hill. I'm going sideways up the hill. So that is how you calculate a basis from a normal, by the way. A frame of reference or rotation. Oh, look, she's averaging her. Yeah, that was cool. That was actually kind of cool. As she fell off the edge, it was averaging her. It was taking the normal off the edge, which was kind of cool. Let's see if I can duplicate that again. Yeah, see, as the normal moves as she falls over the edge. Yeah, that's kind of cool. All right, let me see. Let's check the, in case I got something inverted, right? Let's check the same effect over here on this. She's going to fall down this one a lot faster. Ah, crap. Yep, but it's working right. And as she falls off the edge, I think it's interesting that she walks backwards straight. Like not directly down the hill, but in her own reverse direction. That may be significant as to why she's still sliding down the hill. Anyway, this is a useful bit of kit, because that was one of the early issues we had. Not early, but that was one of the issues we had with the mobs walking up hills before us. We didn't have a way to. Yeah, so this is kind of cool. So hopefully that was at least slightly educational. Oops. So we calculated a new set of axis vectors. Yeah, so X, Y, and Z, in a sense, of her personal orientation on that slope. Yeah, go ahead and back up. All right, so now what do we do with that? I think, what can we do with that? Somewhere in how we're calculating these forces, I ought to be able to take advantage of that and not do this. We could also, I set rig move. Yeah. So we set the target velocity to just be this. But what we could do is set our target velocity to be, first of all, we'll want to make sure ground dir is always at least 001. Okay. Oops. Oh, right, I didn't. It's just I hadn't finished writing that. Now this is already going to be rotated into. So we really only need. We don't need the x component. We do need grounder.y and ooh. Okay, so we set the orientation the way we want it. We set the target velocity. Do we rotate it into... Oh yeah, here we do. We multiply it by the body orientation. But I think we can just take grounder, multiply it by the speed that we want to go. So we've already calculated the direction we're moving in. And so I think we can leave that out. And now I should power up the hills a little differently. Yeah, in fact, she's walking up the hills too fast. Ooh. Oh, interesting. No, yeah, something weird is going on with the, okay, let's try the shallower. We know we can walk up it. Yeah, why is that? Is it a collision problem or a vector problem? I really need a wide, so the wide ramp, we didn't have this problem. I was able to walk up the wide ramp. I like the walk animation. Oh, thank you. It's actually I think it's the jog animation. Yeah, because she's not going slow enough to do the walk animation, so that's her jog animation. It's the same one she'll do, just super fast, because there's no run animation yet. There's only the walk and the jog. So, so this turned out to be bad. I think it's because, well, certainly we have a problem. Just make sure when I put it back that things work again, because maybe I changed something else that was messed up. Okay, control. But we talked about how the direction lags a little bit, and so I'm doing those calculations in the wrong place. Yeah, so that was an issue. Maybe not the issue. And I don't think she walks up the ramps any slower. So maybe this isn't really necessary. I probably have to fiddle with the... No, I've got this other steep ramp over here. Let's just go over here, because it'll be easier to see. Oh, I can use it for is to do a better job of detecting how fast to make her animation, but so like I don't have to pick her flat there. I can dot with the ground direction. Yeah, so and I think she can't step up there. Right. That's really what we should be working on, stepping up the steps. Okay, I've spent enough time on this, and hopefully it was educational. So now let's think about the steps. So we want her to detect that she's walking into the steps. So she's got these... I think we're going to rapidly hit the same problem we did before. with collision shapes and stuff. But this time we're going to build it into the mover. What we want to have happen is, let's center again. When we push forward and she detects that she's hitting a step, we sort of want to trigger a step up animation. We don't have a step up animation yet, but we'll fake it to have her like hover and go up, as long as she's still being pushed in that direction. So that if she stops, she'll fall back down. In case something interrupts. Yeah, I'm really disappointed that this didn't work, but that's okay. So the other thing we want to do is detect when we're being blocked. I think that, so like here we calculated the orientation of the body, and I think that down here I think that anything that's doing anything with the dir would want to be after that, but that's is that true? Okay, so I'm gonna ignore that for now. Alright, so then for each of these contacts, when it's not an up, it is potentially a block. And so if it's facing us, so if our direction and the contact direction are opposites, so we want the dir dot cn, and it's actually going to be the negative dir dot cn. So what we talked about before is if you have two vectors, if you have a vector like this and a vector like this, and you dot them together, it's kind of like doing, the dot is like this, and you've got this other vector coming down here like this. Let's say this was, the dot is sort of telling you the cosine of the angle between them. So when it's fully this way, it'll be -1, and when it's fully this way, it'll be 1. And then through here, it'll be the cosine. So halfway through, 45 degree will be 0.7, and so on and so forth. Halfway through, it'll be 0, and then it'll be negative down here. It's a good way of telling how similar two vectors are. And in this case, we want to know, are they pointing directly at each other, or is the contact actually a back contact of some kind, like we're hitting it from behind or something? We don't care about those. We want to know when we're being blocked in the front. And so that's why I negatived it. So if our block is greater than 0, then we can set the color. We set it to red. We set it to red up here, but let's set them all to yellow unless it's a block, and then we'll set them to red. And so actually that's not even right. Nice retro looking Windows 7 setup. Yeah, Windows 7. This is Windows 7, and I'm running it in classic mode, the classic Windows NT4 um, window mode. All right, so so these, so when we can demonstrate this by backing up into the thing, or maybe we can back up sideways a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see really quickly flashing there was a yellow arrow. So that's like contact we don't care about. Whereas when we're running into something, we get these red contact arrows. You can kind of see them down there. I wish I had a button to pause the simulation while I was doing something, but you can see those red arrows popping out. Oh yeah, a bunch of them when I'm hitting this. Right, we're all over it. Ooh, that's very chaotic. We're not supposed to be able to walk under the... So that's a problem too, but... I don't know why that's happening either, because I don't think it happens in the game. I don't think you can walk under things in the game. So, could be that we need to null out the forces when we're blocked, but anyway. So we can detect that we're hitting something in front of us. We don't know that we can step up onto it. We don't know if we can climb it. We don't know if we can step up onto it. We're going to need to do a physics query to figure that out. Yes, I think I can. If I move side to side enough, I can get up there. Yeah, there we go. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So we want to detect this case and put ourselves in a mode where we can essentially only move up or down, kind of like if you were on a ladder, right? Like if you detected that you were climbing a ladder, now you're in climb mode. You're no longer in walk forward back mode. So we want to know, can we step up? And when we can, all of this stuff we're doing here, we want to swap it out for something else. Maybe not this stuff. All of this stuff down here, where we calculate the forces. We want to do that different. And so, let's just say blocked equals false. And if we got a block, all right. And so then if after we process all of the contacts and we do all that garbage, if we are... That's fine. That's fine. And that's not... That's sort of fine. We still want to do that part. We still want to do that part. And here, though, if we're blocked, we don't want to do these force calculations. We're going to do something else. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this. I think I've saved it. And then I don't have to indent a bunch of crap. See if I got that right. Okay, so now as soon as I run into something in front of me, it should prevent me from walking up it at all. Like, it should kill my forces. Force. I'm still getting a force. I think because I'm blocked and then I don't put a force, and then so if we added a log that says Using JMonkey worth it in 2025? I mean, I'm still using it. I don't know if you wanted to make a Java game in 3D. I don't really know what else to use. You get a lot of support and things. Like of course, I've had a lot of libraries written in it. So yeah, so blocked. Yeah, so mostly we're blocked. But we're going to need a sort of debounce, similar to the way I have for falling. Ooh, we were good on stuck there. So, like I have the on-ground thing so that we don't jitter as we're walking on the ground, because there's sometimes we're just not having a ground contact, but we just did. So I think I need a similar if blocked context block time plus equals step. Where do I reset this? We allow yeah, I'm just gonna, where do I reset? It doesn't really work for me here. Essentially, we want to know if we're blocked. Yes, it's the only Java game with 3D features, but for some simple things, you have to write 100 lines of code. 100 lines of code, it's about 20 minutes. I mean, I've written a lot of utilities, so I don't generally have to write 100 lines of code to do things, but simple things are simple. Block time plus equals step. Yeah, if you're doing JMonkey coding, I highly recommend you use my SIO2 library. It ties a lot of things together. You'll get, it builds, pulls the network sync code, the entity system code, all that stuff. It makes some things easier. And eventually Moss will have some cool stuff that's like non-block world specific as well. And it already does, but it'll be published openly and not like early access. What am I doing? Okay, so if what I wanted to do was, if we're blocked, and block time context, or this isn't right. If we're blocked, or we were blocked recently, that's what we want. We want to set, if we're blocked, we want to set this to the time we want to stay blocked. So if we want to be blocked for 0.2 seconds, otherwise we minus equals step math max 0 context block time minus step. Okay. So then in here, instead of if blocked, we can say if block time is greater than 0. So we have been blocked, and were blocked at least 0.2 seconds ago. Yes, 20 minutes. I write a lot of code very fast, so don't use me as a gauge of anything. So that's not really working. That is. Straight on. What I want is while I'm pushing forward like this, it should not... It's pretty debounced, I guess. Alright. We will assume that will be good enough, or at least we've got the structure in. So if we're blocked, let's just... For now, we won't worry about whether we can move up. We just will move up. So rig move y equals 1. We'll just move up. I tried new Mythruna and it's nice. Old one Mythruna's on my channel since 2017. You're an expert. It's been many 14 years of Mythruna. Yeah. Yes, I have definitely been working on this game a very long time. But hopefully we're getting to some cool stuff, and I feel like some cool things are about to happen pretty quickly. I'm spending a lot of time on this foundational code. Yeah, so why isn't she moving up? Oh, because we haven't included the force code. So we want to do forces a little differently. Let's just... In fact, let's just set force. Where's force defined? Let's just set force y, or set... Ah, crap. Oh, there it is. So we do need a force. So def force equals new like 3D. We just want to go up. And so we will add that force, and we want it to be probably 500. I will post your live stream on my channel to get you more supporters. Awesome. That'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate all the support. And this month, at the end of the month, I'm going to be doing a full public release, right? Because right now you have to like put the password in. The upper left corner of the screen has the link where you can go and get the current test build. But I'm working on, the actual public release, which, depends on some server admin stuff that I've had to do. It'll have like a new splash screen if you weren't here at the beginning of the live stream. I was going to run that real quick. Oh, I probably should have not done that while I'm live streaming and running another instance of JMonkey Engine in the background. But, with this new splash screen and some, basic settings and stuff, and then I want to have the social media links here so that you can click and you can, bring up the Blue Sky page and so on. So all that's getting set up for our end of the month release. Meantime, we're working on making the mobs behave a little better. So let's control her again and try to get her to walk up the... She's trying to move up. No, I mean eventually it'll be like on Steam and for pay. There may be a free demo version, just like Minecraft used to do. No, Minecraft never had a free version, did they? Like maybe, I always remember paying for it, even like 0.6, version 0.6. I kind of like the idea of having a free creative mode version that maybe doesn't have the game features enabled or something, but I haven't quite worked out that yet. You guys have at least a year or more to worry about that. Because the test engine is free for now, so. But I would like to have this game eventually support itself to a further degree than it is currently, and get be able to spend more time on development. What was I doing? Oh yes. Maybe this needs to be higher. Let's set it to 1,000 and see what happens. Where's the lapid? She'll go flying off into space. Hey, see? She did. So we don't know how high she wants to be, and so that's one of the issues. Yeah, so as soon as she bumps into the wall, she's going to start moving up. Yeah, I've thought about a really annoying free demo would be either time limited or radius limited, where if you walk too far from spawn, you get respawned back at the spawn. I just find those things annoying. So I don't really know what the limitation would be, other than because I want to be able to show off, the mobs and the dungeons and things when they exist. But I'd also like not to. I'd like to encourage people to buy the Steam version as well. Yeah, so this is, in principle, what I've done is working. But like right now, she can climb any wall. Right, it's not paying attention to. Yeah, and because it just keeps adding forces regardless of whether she's almost as tall as she needs to be. I think because of that, I could probably temporarily take out I could probably temporarily set this to 0. So there's no lag in, so they're blocked or she's not. No, there's no lag in the blocking. So let's try that again. So if I do this, yeah, so that's more like what it should be. And that means that I could potentially up that force a bit. Let's set it to 1,500 and see what happens. I think 2,000 would be a jump force, which actually, given the fact that there is no step-up animation, is probably more realistic than what I'm doing. Blink, blink, blink. Yeah, so if she had a step animation, it probably wouldn't be too much slower than that. Obviously, I want to factor in if she's running, it should be probably faster. She should be able to run up the stairs faster than oops. Yeah, so now she can walk upstairs. Not well, but... And the issue, of course, is that she can also walk up walls, which is not what we want. See, she can climb anything. For some characters, yes. For lizard people, reptilians, they can climb probably all of these surfaces. Oops, I tried to jump, but I don't have a jump button. Doink. Oh, that's way too... That's the up button. It's way too aggressive. So that's the other thing is... this should only engage climbing when I've got the... when there is direction. So... like there needs to be a if rig move z is greater than 0, then we'll push forward. Right, so that if I'm not trying to move, it's not going to make me go up the... So now if I hit this at a glance, yeah, so as soon as I let off, it makes me fall. And so if I was to do that over here, and as soon as I let off, it makes me fall. Yeah. Okay. So we're getting there. So it needs to detect that she can walk up or climb. So here's the decision point. Like, so if we're doing this, and we're still... That's interesting. if we don't do this, then if she's blocked and on a hill, we need to do the regular physics. So I think this needs to be in here. Just create small space like a demo with limited area where a player can test the game mechanics. Their PC, you can run your game easily. And yeah, that is true as long as like they can see the far away stuff and just can't get there. That's why I thought, yeah, like either invisible force field, please buy the full game, or warning you're about to respawn, and as soon as you walk too far, it respawns you in the center. Context, block time. No, we want to say rigid. Rig move. .c is greater than 0. So that way, all the regular physics stuff happens if we are not. Okay, so control again. Let's see how that feels. Can I still walk up? I can still walk up the stairs. As soon as I stop, it makes me go back down. Okay, that's all good. If I'm just doing a glancing blow, ooh. So that's the other thing, is that the threshold should be, if I'm more or less directly facing. I shouldn't be able to glancingly walk up a thing, right? Like if I'm just barely scraping the wall, I shouldn't walk up it. So let's change the threshold by which we consider us blocked. Here, so let me put a comment. Here is where we'd decide how and if we can climb up. Either step up or climb the wall. Decisions need to be made. And an animation action picked. So I just want to remember that. So where's the blocking stuff? If the blocked is greater than 0, no. If it's greater than, let's say 45 degrees. So what is that? What's the cosine of 45? 0.7. So let's say if it's greater than 0.7, we'll consider that to be in front of us. Otherwise, it's beside us. Okay, so let's see what that feels like. So now I shouldn't be able to just kind of glancingly roll back up. Yeah, so good. So I have to actually be facing the wall. I can't just, oh, let's see, that's interesting. Why though? So that was interesting. Why is she falling slow? That's going to be a problem, but not a problem. So, because I want to use this also for the character, which is why I worry about this, but NPCs are not going to encounter this same problem because they wouldn't do it. The pathfinding would not have them try it. But yeah, this gliding along without falling, it must be a frictional issue. We could test that easily. So if it's not a ground contact, let us set the friction to 0. And so then we should slide right off like the walls are ice. So if we come up here, nope. So it must be something else. Yeah, that's not right. Why are we getting, like, we didn't even have any up force as far as I know. I have that 2002 song stuck in my head. I don't know if you guys know that. Yeah, so we've got no up force. But why aren't we falling? We should have been setting the contact friction to 0. Which isn't actually right. We should be setting it to like the upness value, but weird. Alright, I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about that, though. I'm not sure what to work on next either. Yeah, this is just bugging me. Ooh, why is she running so slow? Did she slow down? Or is it just me? Yeah, there's visible boxes here because there's no real collision. That's a tricky question to answer. So for the OpenGL layer and scene graph management, I'm using JMonkey engine. But then I've heavily written a bunch of my stuff on top of that. So there's a whole bunch of open source libraries and called the Mythruna open source software, MOSS, M-O-S-S, that'll eventually be published. It's open source now, but it's like only available early access for patrons because it still needs like better documentation and proper support and stuff, and I'm trying to focus on making the game. But so there's several layers of stuff, but yeah, like all of this, the UI that's here, this is Lemur, which is an open source UI library built on JMonkey engine. But like the stuff that's making the block world, that's part of MOSS and so on and so forth. Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have the Mythruna art and you wouldn't have the Mythruna models. So you'd have a, sort of a basic, I mean, you can make your own blocks and stuff, but yeah, let me show you. In fact, let's go ahead and I think this is lagging, so I was going to kill it anyway. But so in the MOSS stuff, there's some demos, I think, or apps. So this is the stuff that's it's open source but not published. Early access people can use it and make their own games, and a couple people have, in fact, played with it. I'm trying to find, is it demo 3? Oops. I don't know if this will still work. I haven't run these in a long time. But it comes with some tools for defining your own blocks, with their own, so there's something wrong here. But for example, it comes with a shaper tool. So if you wanted to run, create your own block textures and shapes and stuff, you can go in there and do that. Hold on, I'll show you when it runs. And these are set up to allow you to customize them for your game too. So when I work on Mythruna, I have like custom versions of these tools that extend certain functionality. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So come on, stop being slow. So in here, it's like has an example of a block, and you can go in here and you can define all the aspects of that block, including like what materials it uses for each of the sides. And there's different shapes you can create. Like if you wanted to create a new one that's, these are the built-in shapes, and you can add your own shapes. So that's that. And the materials are loaded from a JSON file that you can create your own materials, and you can create your own shaders. All that's supported. So then, you compile those and you use those in yours. And then there's a blockhead tool that you can use to make models and stuff for your game using blocks. let me show you. And so, like a lot of the, well, all of the in-game objects for Mythruna were made in a similar tool. It's a very similar kind of to the one that's in the, let me see. Well, like that's how I developed the playground that we were playing in. Actually, this is the one that's got the, this isn't using the Mythruna graphics, so it's got the ugly stuff. But so these little playgrounds I made for the physics thing, I keep forgetting this is not the, this not the this is not the Mythruna block set. So you can make your own little things and houses and things that you can put in your game. But like there's the rigger tool, which is when you've developed a model in Blender or something. Oh yeah. You can load that up and set up its collision shapes. This is all part of the open source stuff as well. Come out. So you can define these files. Oh, I did the. I didn't actually. Summon a batch. Okay, the rigger tool. See, in Mythruna, I run them all from the same directory, and I just have different tasks. But so this is using, yeah. There's only one rig over here, but I wanted to show you what it can do. So you export. You've got an animated model in Blender that's following the certain guidelines. In this case, it's Mythruna girl. She's naked. And so you can define sort of her rough collision shapes, which is how the physics engine interacts, and you can in the movement you can define like what her walk animation looks like. So this is her walk animation, and you can see how she's interacting with those random objects, and you can set the thresholds for which it switches from one animation to another. So at some point she switches over to the jog, and that kind of stuff. So this is all built in. Oh yeah, set the idle. Crap. I gotta set this back to 0. It's not. I mean, it's a little janky, right? I did it for my benefits. But one of the things I added was this physics playground, which is what we were using. I have my Mythruna custom version over here, which is that same tool extended, and using the Mythruna block types and the Mythruna models, which is why I can load it up and come on, let's go. So I can load it up and I go to this playground and I can pick what of the playgrounds I want to load, and I can start the simulation. And this allows me to have like scripted stuff that I can add. Like all of this is custom when I create a let's make the dog. So create the dog. And so the idea here is that I could test this particular object in the game to see how its animations sync up to the world, whether it can interact with the environment correctly and so on. She's not doing so great. This is my doggo. My doggy who's no longer with us. So I put my dog in the game. So anyway, this is all based on that. So this is an extension, and it's using the Mythruna blocks and the Mythruna models instead of just generic whatever you've got. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, so I need to set up the per body type animation system against because she is not walking, like her feet are all sliding on the ground. Wonder if she can walk up the hill, because she's a quadruped, so yeah, she can walk up the hill. Yeah, yes and no. The goal is to so this looks really bad because the lighting model is bad, right? You've played, I don't know, have you played the current engine at all? Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get anything more done because I'm only going to go for another 15 minutes. So let me re-enable the game for a second, and I'll talk about it, what the future holds. Um, yep, that's the link and the password. It's currently just, this dragon is the password. It's just currently password protected, so that random internet trolls don't. Yeah, super secret link. The super secret link. That's also where the link to the Discord is. If you wanted to join the Discord, and then you can chat with all the other fellow Mythrunians who have joined the Discord. But yes, so infinitely generated worlds, all that good stuff. The in-game graphics look better than what was just in there, but there's some improvements planned for when I have the rest of the game working. Like, nobody's gonna care. I feel like people would rather have things to kill in the dungeons than slightly better looking blocks. You know what I mean? So I think to me it already looks close to okay. I'm going for, like, you see these images, right? These are generated in the game, and I'm going for that sort of painterly look. I like the old Dungeons and Dragons artwork. When you get the Dungeons and Dragons manuals and you go through, and so I kind of want this game to have that sort of painterly feel. Let's go ahead and play. But along those lines, there are a bunch of improvements planned to the graphics, yes. Just further down the road. But let's play with the engine for a second. We haven't done this in a while. Yeah, so we're teleporting in here. Whee. Oh yeah, I've got a campfire sitting next to me. I can hear it. Okay, the object will load in a second, but should be a dog here too. Man, when the live stream is going, this is really slow. There it goes. There's the dog and then my campfire. Okay, hello doggo. How are you? Aw, you pretty girl. You're a pretty girl. Yes, you are. So yeah, this is what the game looks like, and you can see really far away. So if I bring up the map, each of these squares is a kilometer. So we are standing next to the haunted house. There's a town up there. The spawn tower is right there up on top of that mountain. If you look up way off in the distance, up there where my bubble is hovering over, that's the spawn tower with a airship next to it, parked next to it. So we got like birds and stuff flying around. But yeah, so then you've got third person mode if you want to go in third person mode. So we got some ghosts wandering around the house here, because this was one of the I do a yearly event at Halloween because you can make your own clothes in the game. So you can make your own clothing, and so like if you wanted to have a custom shirt, you can change it and add fabric swatches, and so yeah, boo third person. So you can come in here and you can customize a shirt. Like if you want to have like chainmail parts of this or whatever, you can customize your own outfits and do your own thing. I'm not going to do that. No, we're not going to cancel discard changes. I only get behind it while creating I can only get behind it while creating stuff. The third person, you mean? Yeah, I do it just because I like to have context in my pictures. But so Halloween, I try to do an event where we create costumes and stuff. And so in this case, I made this haunted house and this hedge maze. This is the same world that's on the public server. I've just got it locally to do some testing. And so then people in the game, they got to grab their trophy, and then it captured their costumes here. And so as the ghosts, we can't really see them, but there should be. Yeah, here's my costume over here, which I dressed as Genie from. I think it was Genie from I Dream of Genie. Well, thank you. At least on my system it does, right? So anyway, got butterflies. Yeah, you can make your own objects. Yeah, it adds scale. So like here, what's the scale of this? But as soon as I pop out the third person, especially the far away third person, suddenly the whole world has a little bit different scale. So yeah, when I'm playing and when I'm building um, blocks and stuff, I'm always in the. So you can kind of see the spawn tower up there. There are towns and stuff that are randomly placed around. If we like zoom up in the air, you can see really far away. I don't think we can see a town from here. We got a farm or a settlement or something. Yeah, there's a town over there. So on the map, that is... Oh. On the map, that is not a town. It's a village. So let's enable the markers cheat, and we'll see... Should be a village? Oh, no, it's up here. It's this town. I was looking in the wrong direction. The object mechanic is something special. You can copy other people's objects too. Mwahaha, yes. So yeah, this town 2377, that's what I'm facing over here. So that's this town over here. Right now you can fly because it's kind of like the demo mode, so you're not physically constrained to the world. And you'll find random caves and things around. But yeah, real far, you can see 8 kilometers in the distance. Buildings and stuff show up within, I think, 5 kilometers or 2.5, something like that. So you can see really far. That's why I was talking about the far horizons. But so yeah, we can go wander around the house for a few minutes. Oh, hello, there's a crow. Some old ruins in here that will someday have like some cool stuff. But right now there's some ghosts wandering around since it was made for Halloween. Yeah, so these are like custom objects that I made in the game. Some tables and chairs and some lanterns hanging that I can hang from the ceiling. It's kind of cool. So you could look at it. Yep. Chandelier created by me, or created by Fade, which is my other character. So a little couch in here. So just cool stuff. But again, it needs like mobs, and that's what we're working on with the pathfinding and stuff, to be able to give the townspeople and stuff and the dungeon dwellers a little bit of smarts as far as moving around. Oh, that night sky though. Ooh, where's the moon? So we're gonna get a moon tonight. There it is, big old moon in the distance. Yeah, there we go. That's what it's all about. And if you like games where dark is really dark, you'll have a good time. Sit and warm ourselves by the fire. Hey, the puppy. She came up, she saw me. Hello, hello. So, yep, in fact, maybe I'll place a, let's put a Gafen down too. So that's the chicken goose turkey combination. No, he didn't jump in. He walked right by the fire. But yeah, he saw me, and the dogs have like a basic intelligence. If they see something that, say, see someone they don't know that they haven't seen in a while, they'll come running up to them. PoE dungeons, inventory, magic, and get, yeah, it's almost, yeah, almost, yeah, yes, it's almost there, and I keep feeling like it's, you know, as soon as some of the base systems get a little further along, things will start to come together, and I'll be able to build some cool stuff, because like, yeah, I still have to I have to finish the inventory system, the refactoring of the inventory system, so we have containers beyond just the backpack, that kind of thing. So that's another to-do list on the loot chain. I need to implement, even if I don't make you guys do it, the hunger, thirst, fatigue system, because that starts to factor into things for the NPCs. When they get tired, they need to go to bed, and so on and so forth. And so the NPCs will be patterned off the player, and player will be patterned off the NPCs. Oh yeah, that's right. The dog had a 5-minute timer. So yeah, it's just about to come together. Is how many months? That's always what it boils down to. So, but will you be able to raise a family? So the idea would be that the towns and the NPCs somehow have children and grow old and die. Your player works on a slightly different time scale. It's unclear. Obviously, you'll potentially be able to have relationships. It's unclear whether you can have kids with a NPC. I don't know. I haven't really thought that far ahead. I do want the townspeople to live and die because the world is so huge. I mean, this this is 16 kilometers wide, and you can just keep going. So the world is so huge. I liked the idea that you'd start around the spawn and you'd get to really know these towns and the areas around here, and then you might make an adventure or get on a ship and go traveling over the horizon to somewhere far away, spend in-game years of your life there, and eventually come back to your starter towns and things where you started, and have like them to have evolved. Like some of the characters you knew, some of the NPCs you knew before have passed away, and their children have grown up, that kind of thing. Plus, age will be an actual game mechanic. So I haven't really talked about this much, but the death and age mechanic are sort of in play here, and so your character will grow older over time, and there may be ways to reverse the aging process, so that because you get you'll fatigue easier as you get older, and some of your skills will be harder, like your athleticism and stuff will be harder to keep high with exercise. Standard growing old stuff. Sure, no problem. I like answering questions. But yeah, I think this is a good place to stop the live stream here pretty soon. Oakstorm, what is that emoji for? He's just getting all excited, I think. Is that all excited, or is that worried about aging? That's hilarious. So anyway, good times. Hello, little Gayfin. You're probably going to disappear too. I think I have all the NPCs, test wand NPCs set up to... I have never played Dwarf Fortress, but I understand what it is, and you can say that Dwarf Fortress and I take our inspirations from the same place, because a lot of my plans are very similar to what Dwarf Fortress does. But it's not because I've played Dwarf Fortress. I understand what it is. Of course, I've played, a Dwarf Fortress light games like RimWorld and those kind of things. But yeah, a lot of the systems and the way the world works and stuff, we think the same. But I believe, as compared to Dwarf Fortress, that I'm looking for more of a first-person experience. What I want is a world that I can go and vacation in, essentially. Like, I can go and play an adventure if I want to go, find some dungeon or, a certain art item that some NPC wants. I can just go in and do that. I can create my airship and go hauling goods around the world if I want to do that. Find parts to make my airship better, that kind of thing. Or if I want a sailing ship, I can do that. Just basically, I wanted a place I can go and live in, and so it's important that it be interesting and have stuff to do. But that's all so that's basically what I can say. And if you join the Discord, you can talk about it more and ask more questions there. But I I like to do it on the stream too, because maybe somebody watched to the end. All right. And on that note, I think we'll start closing it out. Thanks for the stream, and definitely thanks for the conversation, guys. It means a lot, so thanks a lot for that. And if you like this video, like it. You can comment if you think of other things that you meant to talk about but didn't. And of course, if you're not subscribed, please try subscribing. YouTube likes all those things, and it'll more likely to show my video to other people. So thanks for joining, thanks for talking, and I hope you all have a productive, creative week of your own. So thanks for watching.